You got to love technology. It only works when you don't want it to.
Well, I'll tell you a very strange thing. My internet is always down, like an hour before I do shows with Brant.
Oh, wow.
And my son called and said, "You don't have any internet." And so we checked, and there was a red light beeping. So we disconnected and we connected, and it seems like it's working. And I don't know if you said or he said that we're attacking in Beirut, but there's no mention of it at all in the news here.
Well, I am honored to have you on. We're live on Facebook right now. So tell the people a little bit about your ministry and the background. Well, first, let's slide back here a minute. I jumped ahead of myself. I am live here with Avi Lipkin. I am excited to have you on. He's live in Israel. For those of you that don't know, share with us a little bit about your background in ministry.
Okay, well, I'm an American-born Jew. I moved to Israel 55 years ago when I was 19, so you can do the mathematics. For a number of reasons, which I imagine we will eventually get to, I was fired. I'm kind of like Rush Limbaugh. I was fired from every job I had, and then God sent me back to the States. Like, you know, Joseph was kicked out of the land by his brethren, and the Egyptians took him in. And in this case, the Americans took me in. I mean, the Christians. And I've been in over 1,000 churches, 1,000 radio and TV shows. And I have learned that the Christians are not our best friends. The Christians are our only friends. And we are always facing a war of survival. And so the little I can do at age 75 is to try to be a spokesman for Israel, using the current events, the news media, and trying to find the parallels in the Bible. And we are indeed in very tumultuous times. I believe that God has blessed us to be alive at this time, to be witnesses to the fulfillment of Bible prophecy. And so indeed, praise God, good to be alive. And we're doing our best. My wife, I'm American born, and I don't know if you know what Ashkenazi is. I'm an Ashkenazi Jew, a Jew from the European background. My wife is Jewish, but she's from the Sephardic or Mediterranean background. And she was born in Egypt and worked for 30 years as an intelligence gatherer for the Israeli radio and TV. And I've written 7 books. And a lot of my 7 books were written because of the impetus that my wife gave me, because she was always talking to me about what's really going on in the Middle East, what's really on the minds of the Islamic agenda, to kill the Jews on Saturday and to kill the Christians on Sunday. But other than that, Jews and Christians are one people. We are the people of the book. And the only difference between Jews and Christians is Jews keep the Sabbath on Saturday and Christians keep the Sabbath on Sunday. Therefore, the Muslims say, if the Jews keep the Sabbath on Saturday, slit their throats on Saturday. And if the Christians keep the Sabbath on Sunday, split their throats on Sunday. So basically, it all boils down to that. It is a war. It is a clash of civilizations. And if you're talking in Judeo-Christian Judeo-Christian way of thinking, this is a war between God and Satan. And I'm proud to say, firstly, I want to say thank you for having me on your show. And secondly, I have a 3-year jail sentence in Switzerland for saying when I was there that Allah is not God, but Satan, and that Islam is not a religion, but a criminal psychosis bent on the total depopulation of the human race. Because the Muslims in the end kill each other too. So basically, the battlefield lines have been drawn, and I'm very glad to be on your show. From what I understand from Brant, you have a good following, very big following, and I hear you have a Southern accent, but I understand you're on the East Coast, so you must be in North Carolina or South Carolina or Atlanta.
I'm in South Carolina, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We're in South Carolina.
Rock Hill, South Carolina, close to the Charlotte, North Carolina line.
I know the place very well, and I've got some very dear Christian friends who are missionaries, and I always take off there on route number 5, heading east. That takes me straight to where they are, which is just north of Henderson.
Yes, sir. So, from what I understand, you were one of very few household names that predicted 9/11. Share with us a little bit about the story behind that.
Well, my wife Rachel is to blame. She was monitoring the broadcasts. Uh, um, First, let me go back a second. There's a very well-known Washington, D.C. counterterrorism expert by the name of Stephen Emerson. And he produced with PBS, he produced a 1-hour show called Jihad in America. This was in 1993. And this is right after, now I don't know if you remember, you look too young to me. 1992, the terrorists tried to blow up the World Trade Center with a truck bomb. And so Stephen Emerson went into this subject very deeply. And from his interviews with Islamic terrorists, they said, if at first you don't succeed, try again. So it wasn't something that was out of the clear blue sky. This is something that is Islamic strategy. If at first you don't succeed, try again. My wife, in her work, was monitoring the broadcasts of religious preachers, and they were saying, we're going to take down those suckers. You know, we're going to take down those 2 buildings because the war with America is an economic war, and we are going to cause a crash, literally a crash on Wall Street. In other words, bring the towers down on Wall Street, destroy the American economy, destroy the world economy. And so this is what my wife gave me a number of times. I put it in my first book in 1997, which is 4 years before 9/11. I've written 7 books. This was the first book. And everybody said to me, oh, you're a horrible person. You are a racist. The Muslims are good people. I said, yes, Muslims are good people, but the people who are going to attack America are Muslim, because you've got some pretty bad guys also. So my wife gave it to me, gave me the information, put it in my first book, and I spoke about this throughout the United States. And after it happened, instead of saying I was a racist and a bad person, everybody said Avi Lipkin is a prophet. I said, I'm not a prophet. I just listen to my wife. Especially if I want to stay alive.
Yeah, happy wife, happy life, right?
Right.
So the books that you've written is about the ever-growing religion of Islam. Tell us a little bit about the background of Islam for those who don't know.
Okay, well, I think we need about 5 hours for that. I know we have 1 hour, right?
You can go as long as you want to, brother.
You don't want to say that. Firstly, I have to give a little introduction to how I met my wife and how she straightened me out. I grew up in New York, and I left America at age 19, and I was taught all my life, and this is still being taught in synagogues all over the world, that the Muslims are the allies, the Christians are the enemies, because of 1492 in Spain. And of course, the American Jews and Jews throughout the world don't have a clue about born-again evangelical Christianity. All they know about is Catholics, where they tie you up and burn you at the stake. And my wife's family was expelled from Spain because of the Catholic Church. I hope you're not a Catholic. I like Catholics, by the way. I have a lot of good Catholic jokes. But so anyway, but American Jews have this mantra that the Muslims were the allies in Spain, therefore they are the allies today, and the Christians were the enemies in Spain, therefore the enemies today. This is grooved in to the DNA of the Jewish people. And so anyway, I meet my wife on a bus, where else? And she was with a group with Argentine communists who had just come to Israel and had escaped basically being executed by the fascist generals in Argentina. And I was wearing a youth movement uniform, which looks kind of fascist, actually. And they started cursing my mother in Argentine Spanish. And my parents grew up in Argentina, so Argentine Spanish is my mother tongue. And so I turn around and my eyes fall on my unsuspecting wife-to-be, and I started yelling at her, why is she, cursing me? And she didn't understand the Spanish, but she understood something was amiss. And she said, listen, I'm not from Argentina. We study in the Hebrew Ulpan. Ulpan is a class for immigrants. And, but I'm not with them. I know what they're doing, but, so I'm not attacking you. And so I said to myself, Avi, you're such an idiot. How can you attack this poor, innocent, and very beautiful young lady? And so I said, I completely changed my phase. And I said to her, tell me something. Are you open to an interview? Because I was the editor of an English language newspaper at Hebrew University. She said, sure. And so when we got to her dorm room, she looks at me, and before I take out my pad, start asking her questions about Jews in Egypt, and she said, before you ask any questions, I have a question. I said, what's your question? She said, are you crazy? And I said, why am I crazy? She says, because how can you leave America? You have to be crazy to leave America. And I said to her, because the Gentiles hate us. And she said to me, Gentiles? I said, yeah, the Christians. She says, not only are you crazy, you also don't understand anything, because Christians are not Gentiles. I don't know if you ever heard this before. Christians are part of the tree, part of the olive tree. The Jews are the roots, the Christians are the branches, and we are together as one family. And we are known throughout the Middle East, throughout the Arab world, as the people of the book, people of the Bible. The Gentiles are the Muslims. The Muslims are good people, but they are pagans, because their God, Allah, is the moon god, the war god, the sword god, and I say Satan. And their plan is to kill everybody. And God doesn't want us to kill everybody. God loves all his children. We are all created in his image. And so my very first meeting with my wife was a complete shock, because I had been taught from day one that the Christians were the bad guys and the Muslims were the good guys. And here my wife is saying, no, the Christians are family. And this whole thing about Judaism and Christianity is basically a family feud between those who accept Jesus and those who don't. But the people who want to kill both the Jews and the Christians are the Muslims. And there's no feud there. They're just outright warfare. And the problem is in Europe, in America, even in Israel, I cannot get up and say Allah is Satan. If I say Allah is Satan, I go to jail here in Israel.
Wow. I
almost went to jail in Switzerland. And I mean, if you know a little German, Avi Lipkin, Schweiz. Schweiz is Switzerland in German. It appears on YouTube. I don't think they took it out after all these years, 2009. But I said that the plan of Islam is to conquer Europe, to conquer America, conquer Israel, conquer every country, and kill everyone who doesn't convert to Islam. And at the same time, in the end, when people do convert to Islam, they still kill each other, because Islam is a criminal psychosis. So that's basically my message in the churches. And really, the only people who listen to me are the Christians. The Jews don't want to hear a word I'm saying, because they're still locked into 1492.
So, in your opinion, why do you think Islam is the most rapid growing religion, even here in America?
Deception. Deception. I have to tell you something. If you want to convert to Judaism, you have to go through 6 months, maybe a year, of classes and reading and learning, and you have to come before a board of rabbis, and they have to decide if you're sincere. You are interrogated like the Catholic Inquisition. Converting to Judaism is not an easy thing. You want to convert to Christianity, you dunk. You get baptized. In Islam, it's even easier. All you say, there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet, you're a Muslim. You recite the Shahada. And so many people fall in love with this Rudolph Valentino revolutionary system, especially the women. Women love it, because they got this alpha male who comes to America with a budget, comes to America with a lot of money to wine and dine, buy jewelry. And when these Muslims want to marry an American, that is permitted. But you cannot marry a Muslim woman because Muslim women are guarded. But American women get a lot of attention from Muslim men, and it's kind of like a honey trap in reverse. And the men, listen, people, I say like this: look at the black people. Good black people who have love in their hearts go to church. But black people with an agenda to destroy the whites, they become Muslims, because Islam is the weaponized insanity which is used to kill white people, whether they're Jews or Christians or Hindus or Buddhists. All doesn't matter. Anyone who's not a Muslim has to be killed. And listen, you read the Bible, you read about Cain and Abel, and both were children of Abraham. And one of them murders the other. So we have this problem of murder going back to day one. So I'm a person who loves to read the Bible. I love to teach the Bible. By the way, I read the Quran, so I know what the enemy is saying. I know what they're thinking. I go to the churches. I say, look, here's the New Testament and the Old Testament, which are, in my opinion, one book. And look at the Quran and the Hadith. And you see the exact opposite of what Jews and Christians believe. Now, the problem here is that people who don't want to read and people who don't want to learn get seduced by a lot of, excuse the expression, a lot of baloney that the Muslims are offering. There's also something called Chrislam. Chrislam is a crazy, crazy system where they say Allah is God, God is Allah, Muhammad is Moses, Moses is or Jesus, and Jesus is Muhammad, and it's a big mess. And also, if there's someone who's a pastor and has very, very bad financial problems, the Muslims say, no problem, we'll give you the money, and you start praying on Fridays, and you little by little switch over from Christianity to Islam. Wow. There is such a thing in America. So I'm always following very closely the habits of the Muslims, the habits of the Christians, habits of the Jews, and Jewish people might not necessarily convert to Islam because they'll be killed no matter what they do. But many Jewish people have this affection for Islam because of 1492, and they become useful idiots of the Islamic agenda. And forgive me for saying it, they become Democrats.
So where did your passion for Israel actually come from?
My passion for Israel? Well, I'll tell you, I grew up in a non-religious Jewish home. I went to Hebrew school to learn Hebrew, to learn how to be a Jew. Because to be a Jew, you have to learn how to be a Jew. You have to learn Hebrew. You have to read Torah. You have to have a bar mitzvah. And I came under the influence of a number of Israeli teachers, very, very good people. And one of them actually helped me to correspond with Israel's first prime minister, David Ben-Gurion. And in 1964, I wrote him 5 letters. I got 2 letters back from Ben-Gurion. And he said, if you want to be a Jew, you have to move to Israel. And so my whole life has been dedicated to this. And I see that we're going to be receiving, I believe, millions of Jews and Christian spouses very soon because of a Holocaust, which is happening. And, again, I don't want to go too much into politics, but, Democrats won't invite me for anything in the world. Synagogues don't invite me either. The only people who invite me are the born-again Christians and some Messianics. And I see some very crazy things going on in America, and these people are telling me that there's going to be a civil war. Now, I pray to God that there's no civil war. But the point is this: if the elections in 2020 were stolen, and I believe they were, and Trump could not do anything about it because all the generals had been replaced. All the generals are left wing. But if it happens in 2024, there are a lot of very, very angry Americans. They don't have to take up arms. They have the arms already. And I met with a neo-Nazi. I didn't know he was a neo-Nazi, but I had lunch with him. And he was very nice to me, very friendly to me. He said, Avi, you're not like the other Jews. You know, you think like we think. I said, okay, well, that's very nice. I know that already because I go to church every day. I'm a Jew who goes to church every day. Have you ever heard something so crazy? And I love going to church. I love listening to pastors teaching the Bible. I learn a lot from this. But the problem here is the neo-Nazi says to me that the Jews are communists, they're socialists, because this is the Jewish tradition going back 100 years to the Russian Revolution. And nationalism in Europe was always a Christian thing. And nationalism in America is Christian, but it's also Jewish. And I'm very glad to say that the Jews who support Trump today are almost 50-50 with Democrats. So, you know, Jews in America really are like everyone else. But most Jews really don't want to hear about the end of Jewish life in America. They don't want to hear about the disastrous Holocaust, which I think is coming. You've got 30 million militia members. I don't know, maybe 10% are neo-Nazi, 90% are just patriotic Americans. But I would say 3 million are terrorists. The Muslims, 30 million, 3 million are terrorists. Black Lives Matter. Now listen to this. I'm going to give you a real humdinger. You know, you have this business of the abortion. Mm-hmm. Now, by the way, I formed a Judeo-Christian political party, and we oppose abortion. So anyway, so Black Lives Matter. They say that the Jews are genocidal killers of black babies because the Jews support abortion. Now, which babies are getting aborted? Mostly the black babies. Therefore, according to their crazy thinking, the Jews are responsible for killing black babies. And another thing that Black Lives Matter is teaching is that many of the slumlords are Jews. So the Jews are the ones who are keeping the blacks in slums. So there's a lot of anti-Semitic stuff going around. Then there's Antifa. Antifa are communist anarchists, and they want to kill Jews and Christians. And America is a barrel of dynamite, and the fuse is lit. And unless, even if Trump wins, we got to pray for Trump. We can't allow him to be assassinated like almost happened. By the way, I voted for Trump twice in both elections. My sons, 100,000 Israeli Jews voted for Trump. So the Jews in Israel who are American citizens, they know that Trump is the right guy, not the dingbat.
Yep. Trump is a great guy.
Yeah.
So to carry on the interview and the conversation here, in what ways do you help Israel now and the party, and talk about the party that you just spoke about, the Bible Bloc party, if you would?
Okay, well, firstly, a Jew has to come out of the cocoon. The cocoon is that the Christians are the enemies, and we shouldn't have anything to do with them. And what has happened, I was told all my life not to like Christians. And I really think I cannot say I ever hated the Christians, but I came to Israel because I wanted to be in a Jewish state, and I didn't want to know about the people who I thought were enemies. If you think the Americans are enemies, you leave America. That's what I did. And then, long story, I was very active in the Likud party all my life. Likud party is right wing. And I was kicked out of my job. I was court-martialed by the army. I was kicked out of rabbinic seminary, all because of my right-wing views. And basically, I was kicked out of Israel, like Joseph. And the only people who would take me in were the Christians. I've been speaking in Christian churches 35 years. And I fell in love with the Christians. I never became a Christian, but I love the Christians. By the way, I have to tell you, if I want to consider myself an ambassador of Israel to the Christians, I cannot become a Christian. I have to be an Israeli Jew, an authentic Jew who loves the Christians. Like, if you're an American and you're sent as an ambassador to China or to Russia, you don't become Chinese or you don't become Russian. You always remain an American. So I started going to churches because God shut every door in my face here in Israel. And I fell in love with the Christians. And I see how the Christians deeply, deeply love Israel. Now, there are those Christians who don't like the Jews. And, my Christian friends will always say, if a Christian doesn't like the Jews, he ain't a Christian. Because Christ was a Christian. Right. So this is one of my favorite remarks. But little by little, I began to see, you have to remember that the Christian community in Israel is a crazy country. The Christian community is very small and very divided. But the Christian community is growing. So what we see is 2% of the population are Arabic-speaking Christians, mostly either Catholic or Greek Orthodox. They go back 2,000 years. They were among the first people to become Christians, 2%. Then up to the 1990, all of a sudden we had waves of immigration from the former Soviet Union, and we got about 2 million Russian speakers. And of them, 400,000 are not Jewish, according to the rabbis. So that's another 6%. So 8% of the Israeli population is believers. And there is not one Christian in our parliament. And the Muslims have 10 members of Knesset. I'm saying the Muslims are citizens. They have a right to vote for whoever they want, but they're enemies. And the Christians who are married to us, serve in the army, pay taxes, and vote, there is not even one Christian in the parliament. And I've been in Israel 55 years. And so I see the thing developing. And there's one of two possibilities. Either the Jews and the Christians will love each other and form a unity love party, or we can continue hating the Christians until hell freezes over, and the Christians who may have come from anti-Semitic backgrounds, they can hate us too. And many of them do hate us. But what I'm trying to do is change the hearts of the Jews towards the Christians and change the hearts of the Christians towards the Jews. Now, to get into the parliament, you need to have 140,000 votes. 140,000 votes will give you the first 4 members on the list. Here in Israel, we vote for lists. We don't vote for individuals like in America. We vote for parties. And my party is the only one out of 40 parties that has Christian or Messianic candidates. So this is something very unusual. But at the same time, many Christians or Messianics here in Israel, they don't really understand what I'm trying to do. And I will say one thing, though. I'm fast forwarding. If and when, God forbid, there's a Holocaust in America, and let's say 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, 10 million immigrants come to Israel, and there's 80% intermarriage with Christians. So we're talking about 4 or 5 million Christians. Who's going to represent them? My party is the party of Judeo-Christian Western civilization and democracy. And I'm 75. I don't know how long I'm going to live, but as long as I'm breathing, I'm going to be working on the party. When I started speaking about the party 25 years ago, people thought I was nuts. I thought I was nuts. When I said we have to get 100 signatures, they said you'll never get 100 signatures on a petition to get the party registered. I did it. I had to pay my lawyers $50,000. I did it. I had to lead the party since 2018. Party was registered in 2018. I did it. Now our problem is the next stage is to get the votes to get into the Knesset And so this will be sometime in the future. And if I'm not alive, someone else will do it.
So the one-sided media is feeding us all kind of information about how Israel is at war with different countries. Share with us a little bit about that.
Okay, well, you see, in Christianity, you've got Christians who hate Israel. All of them are members in the United Nations, which is a very anti-Semitic organization. But you've got Christians who love Israel. I would say you have about 2 billion people on the face of the earth. About 1,200 are Catholic. 300,000 are Russian or Greek Orthodox. That's already 1.5 billion. The remaining 500 million are divided up as follows. I'm giving ballpark figures. You have the Anglicans, the Lutherans, Anglicans, Lutherans, and the state churches, which are about 300 million. Then we're left with 200 million who are the evangelicals and the Baptists. Now, among the evangelicals and the Baptists, half of them hate the Jews, and half of them love the Jews. So out of 2 billion Christians, 100 million love the Jews. Those are the people I'm working with. And listen, when you're in battle, you try to find allies and to work with them for the common good. With Islam is a system that has it in its blood, has it in its mother's milk to hate the Jews, hate the Christians. I don't understand what's so complicated here. So the Islamic countries surrounding Israel hate us and are constantly attacking us. Even Egypt, we made a peace agreement with them, and they're preparing for war with us. Turkey, we've had relations with them many years. They're preparing for war with us. I would like also to speak about Turkey a little bit because it's something that Americans don't have a clue. Jordan, the reason we have to have a peace agreement with Jordan is because we have them over a barrel. What does that mean? We are providing them with their water. We desalinate the seawater and we give it to the Jordanians as part of their peace agreement. If they make war with us, they're going to die of thirst. It's very simple. So Jordan is kind of an ally, good, kind of a neighbor. I wouldn't say a good neighbor. They hate us. Everyone hates us in the Islamic world. And our independence war in 1948-49, we fought against 7 armies even then. And our population was 600,000. Today, our population is 10 million. Our population very soon is going to be 20 million. And I want to tell you something. The Messiah is coming or returning to Jerusalem.
Yeah. Yep.
He's not coming to Charlotte. Maybe he is, but he might make a few stops before that. But he's coming to Jerusalem. And, I always ask you the question, is the Messiah coming or returning only for the Southern Baptists?
No.
He's coming for everybody.
Right.
So everybody has to be represented in Jerusalem. And I always ask myself the rhetorical question, why does God have Jews and Christians intermarry? And if you know the Bible, it's called the one new man.
Right.
And Messiah is coming for all the Jews and all the Christians who will receive him. So there's a difference between the Christians who say, well, we don't like the Jews and Messiah cannot be a Jew. And then we have the Muslims who say, well, we don't care what he is. We're going to kill him. We're going to kill everybody. So we have a war which has been imposed on us from day one. It is a religious war. My prayer for America is that America not make a mistake, that America do the right thing. And I'm very excited to be on your show. And I love Brandt very much. And I'm glad that he connected us and other people in Texas. And I love to hear your Southern accent, but I listen to Texan accents also. I like them. And then I go back to New York and I miss the New York accent. So I always love to go to the States. Every area I go to, I meet wonderful people and I hear the wonderful accents throughout the United States.
So you wanted to share with us a little bit about Turkey. You want to go into that?
Okay, Turkey, I'm going to give you the history of Turkey, which basically would need a few hours. I'm going to do this in a few minutes. The history of modern-day Muslim Turkey started in the year 1002. That's an easy number to remember, 1002. And there was a leader of these nomadic Turkish tribes. His name was Arsalan, and he defeated the Byzantine army, and it took another 400 years. There were Mongol invasions. There was the bubonic plague. All these things held up the defeat of the Christians in Constantinople. But then 1453, Constantinople fell. So that's 600 years ago. And meanwhile, Turkey has been Islamicized. There used to be many more Christians, many more Jews. They're all gone.
Wow.
I don't know if you remember, there's a movie, you're too young, but there's a movie that used to be called The Blob. It's a movie from the 60s. And the Blob would basically pounce, it would look like Jello, moving Jello. It would jump on a person and devour it, digest it, and then that person becomes part of the Blob. And wherever Islam goes, it swallows up Christians and Jews and Hindus and Buddhists, swallows them up and makes them become Muslims. And so Turkey became totally Islamic, totally. And I'm going to move a little forward. So 1453, Constantinople falls. Christianity is losing it in Eastern Europe. The Catholics were very strong in the West, but in the East, it was the Eastern Church. And there were these wars between Islamic Ottoman Turkey and Christian Europe. And in 1571, okay, so we're looking at from 1453 to 1571. Now, you're an American, so you probably learned in school about the Battle of the Spanish Armada.
Right, yeah.
Did you ever hear the Battle of Lepanto? Nobody, you know why? Because the Battle of the Spanish Armada was 1588, and the Battle of Lepanto was 1571. There's 17 years difference.
Wow.
But because it was a Catholic victory over the Muslims. So it's not taught in American schools. You hear about the Battle of the Spanish Armada because that's where the Protestants licked the Catholics. You with me?
Yes.
Listen, I'm a history buff. I don't judge anyone. I just say this is what happened here, this is what happened there. What happened in 1571? The Turks were conquering all of Europe from the east. They conquered Vienna. They're conquering all of Europe. And there was a great sea battle called the Battle of Lepanto. Lepanto is a Greek island. And there were two navies fighting the Turks. There was the Catholic Spanish Navy, and there was the Catholic Venetian Navy. And the Venetians, Americans don't learn any of this. There was the Silk Road going across Asia, bringing goods to Europe. These were the Venetians. They were the primary wheelers and dealers. And they sank the Turkish fleet. And so the Turks were really angry. So the Turks said to the Spanish and the Venetians, number one, you're going to rebuild our fleet. If you don't rebuild our fleet, we're going to conquer Italy, we're going to conquer Spain. They were capable of doing that. Then they said something else. They said Cyprus. Now, and nobody knows what Cyprus is in America. I'm teaching geography here. First time I went to Cyprus in 1979, I saw all the signs, all the road signs were in Italian. So what's this business of the Italian? Cyprus is Greek. They said, no, Cyprus was under Venetian rule for hundreds of years. So the Turks said, we're going to let us have Cyprus. This is the punishment for sinking our navy. And so Cyprus became part of the Islamic Ottoman Empire. Give a few hundred years go by, and in 1878 there was a great war against Turkey, where the British, the French, and the Russians defeated the Turks. And one of the results of this war was that the British took Cyprus and said, like they did with China, with Hong Kong, they said that Cyprus will be a British colony, a British protectorate, for 99 years. So 1878, do the math, 1977, Cyprus should have reverted to Turkish control. What's the problem? You got all these Greek Christians who don't want to be Turks. And so the British and others decided to protect Cyprus. Don't forget, have you been to Cyprus?
No.
In the south of Cyprus, there is a port called Limassol. There is a very big Greek NATO base there.
Wow.
So if the Turks try to make trouble, the British are involved. The British are very close to Cyprus. And the Greeks, of course. Okay. So 1974, the Turks, 1 second. I hate these dams. I can't, I've got to turn it off. So in 1974, there was an attempted coup d'etat among the Greeks of Cyprus, and they wanted enosis. Enosis was the merging of Greek Cyprus with Greece, and the Turks said no, because we have you have 500,000 Greeks and we have 100,000 Turks, and the Turks invaded the north of Cyprus, and the Turks are there until today. So I have to tell you, I have a very dear friend who is a Greek Cypriot, and he had a summer home in Kyrenia or Kyrenia in the northern mountains of Cyprus, and his kitchen window overlooked the sea between Cyprus and Turkey. And after this coup d'etat, one morning he wakes up, the whole Turkish fleet, you can see the red flags of the Turkish ships under his window. And he woke up his wife and 2 kids and said, we got to get out of here. And they got in his car and they drove down the mountain to Nicosia, which is the capital of Cyprus. They could see the Turkish paratroopers landing behind them. 160,000 Greek citizens of Cyprus were kicked out and transferred to the southern side. Of course, the Turks went over to the northern side, and it was a partition of the island. Now, this Casinos friend of mine said to me that, we all have our money invested in London, not in Athens, because Athens, Greece, is too close to Turkey. And Turkey can conquer both Cyprus and Greece. It's kind of like China decides they want to take Taiwan. Is Biden or his number 2 going to do anything about it? Probably not. So the Turks know, because of the weakness, that they can invade Cyprus. Their troops are already at the northern gates of the old city of Nicosia. And I have to tell you something. The Israelis are training the Greek Cypriot army. We are allies with the Greeks now. If the Turks try to take Cyprus, Israel will come to the defense of Cyprus. Not just because we're good guys. Not just because they're going to slaughter all the Greeks. But now there's a new thing here. They've discovered gas, natural gas, under the seafloor of the Eastern Mediterranean. And the Israelis developed an alliance with the Greek Cyprus to extract the gas and send it in a pipeline to Italy. So the Turks say, no, Cyprus belongs to the Turks. The gas belongs to Turkey, and we're going to fight for it. You got to listen to what the Turks are saying. This is not just stuff in the air. Another thing is the Turks take Cyprus. El Al, the airline of Israel, cannot fly anymore because we will be flying over Turkish airspace. And if we go south, we're flying under Egyptian airspace. And Egypt is preparing for war.
Right.
We have a peace agreement, but they're preparing for war. And, we Israelis, we Jews, we don't live in a nice neighborhood. And I mean, I believe God will protect us and we will be victorious. But if the Americans are not there, we're going to have a very hard time. And this is going to affect Greece, Cyprus. The Turks have also said that whatever was once Turkish must return to Turkish rule. So the Balkans, Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary, Austria, all these countries. I mean, this Erdogan is like Hitler. Like, he's completely nuts.
Wow.
It's not like live and let live. No, Turkish history is too important.
Well, Avi, it has been an honor talking with you today. Thank you so much for coming on the program. Share with our folks how they can find out a little bit more about your ministry.
Okay, well, excellent. I have a very, very difficult name for my website. It's called BiblicalAlliance.com. That's very complicated. BiblicalAlliance.com. Do you think people can remember that? And I have 7 books. They're available there. People can order them. I have a slight problem with donations. So if anyone wants to make a donation, they should send me an email, which is VicMoore. It's there on the website, VicMoore2001@yahoo.com. And I will discuss with them ways of making donations. And every penny helps. You know, we're hearing more. I wanted to say, I was reading the emails an hour ago where Brandt was saying, and you were saying, let's reschedule. There's a war going on. There's no internet. So it's always been touch and go with the internet. We have still not really gotten into the full battle with Hezbollah of Lebanon and the Iranians. It may happen. But if people write to me at BiblicalAlliance.com, I will answer them. I answer everybody. And the books are there. And I would love to meet your people wherever they are. I imagine you're based in South Carolina, but you got people all over the place, I heard.
I do.
So it'll be wonderful teaming up with you and being part of the Brandt, Fricker, and Andrew and Brunette. I thought you were French. I thought the name is Brunet, you know, because Brunette is with 2 T's and an E. But you're okay. So good to meet you. And one day, hopefully, I'm going to come through with my vehicle is somewhere in the jungles of Florida. And I haven't driven my car in a year and a half. So I've got to get it to Toyota, get it fixed up as soon as the war is over. And then we can look forward to having a good time meeting each other.
Yes, sir. God bless you. God bless Israel. And we look forward to the next time we can speak again.
And God bless America also. And God bless you.
Thank you so much. You have a blessed day.
Shalom, shalom.